Testing.
Well, I hope she recovers
From like
quickly.
16 games a night.
Hey, Mike, how are you, bud?
How you doing?
It's good to see you here. You got a lot going on. I hear this. Lehigh County's trying to change our.
Yeah, no, I go back to my lawyer. She's actually, I talked to Charles yesterday. She's worried.
Yeah, no, it is. It definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know why she cares about our. We don't care about this.
I have no idea. Yeah, okay.
I'll let you know.
Did you, the are coming on the 18th and 19th.
I'd like to call the meeting of Northampton County Council, May 6th, to order. I've asked Bill McGee to lead us in the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Clark, will you call the roll?
Mr. Cusick?
Present.
Mrs. Ferraro? Here. Mr. Giovanni?
Here.
Mr. Heckman? Here. Mr. Lott?
Here.
Mr. McGee?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here.
Ms. Vargo Hefner?
Here.
Ms. Drinsky?
Here. Thank you. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of April 15th, 2021?
Motion.
Mr. Myers, second.
Second.
Mr. Giovanni, all in favor, voice acclamation.
Aye.
Opposed? All done.
The minutes were approved by voice acclamation.
And courtesy of the floor, no one signed in. Is there anyone here who would like courtesy of the floor? Seeing none. Mr. McClure, do you have a report for us this evening?
So often you'll hear me talk about Northampton County's future being green. And, you know, that means different things to different people. For some people, it's about farmland preservation or the development of our trails. For other people, it was helping small businesses to the tune of $10 million over 700, almost 800 small businesses through the pandemic with our CARES Act funding by throwing a lifeline to help them survive and thrive. For other people, it's about returning to a sense of normalcy after vaccinations get to a certain level and we get to have those mitigation strategies lifted. So, you know, Northampton County's future being green is really what you bring to it, what you think about it. And that's why I've been proposing that when the American Rescue Plan money comes in, we put another $10 million into our small businesses. Because, you know, the CARES Act funding helped us help them survive. And now we need to help them thrive. Because even though mitigation strategies are going to be lifted, there's still going to be some time. There's going to be a lag between folks getting vaccinated and folks feeling comfortable to come back to our small businesses to the pre-pandemic levels. That's why when that money comes in, I'm going to suggest to you in the frame of reference of Northampton County's future being green that we put another $10 million into our small businesses. I think it's something we absolutely ought to do. And, you know, to that end, you know, to get us into the green, to get us to where we're not wearing our masks anymore, I'm going to suggest that we set aside approximately $10 million for what we'll call COVID-19 mitigation going forward. Things like being able to continue our testing collaboration with Lehigh Valley Hospital Coordinated Health and to be able to add a drive-through vaccination clinic at that site, so that not only will we be doing COVID-19 testing there, we'll also be able to do vaccinations there, and we're working out the details with them as we speak. So if we set that money aside, not only will we be able to do our testing and our vaccinations, we will be able to do outreach to reluctant pockets of our populace who are resisting vaccination, and we'll be able to talk with them, empathize with them, understand where they're coming from, and have folks who can communicate with them. Very few, if you're vaccine hesitant, no county executive or county council member is going to get you to get a vaccine. But there are folks from their relevant communities who can talk with them about the necessity to be vaccinated and why that's so important, and we'll do that, and that's part of, our future being green. I wanted to let you know about a phone call I got. It was from the Eckert Brothers Music Store in Wind Gap, and they wanted you to know that they are super appreciative of the $15,000 that you granted them as part of the CARES Act funding. And as we know, small business was helped throughout the entire county with our CARES funding, and we will continue to do so with our American Rescue Plan. I also wanted to let you know that the Two Rivers Trail Gap Project has been selected to receive $650,000 in Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside, TASA funds, to complete a half-mile section of the brand-new trail between Filetown Road and Henry Road in Bushkill Township. The project was one of 4 selected by special LVTS committee tasked with regionally allocating $1.5 million in TASA funds. Upon completion of this trail section, there will be one remaining trail gap left to complete, Filetown Road to Sullivan Trail, which will ultimately connect to the Plainfield Township Trail and Stockertown Rail Trail and serve as a link to the September 11th National Memorial Trail and proposed Northern Tier Trail. It's a huge deal. I'd like to think that our continued advocacy for fairness and equity from bi-county collaborations like LVTS had something to do with this. So I would encourage all of you who do have a platform to continue to advocate for equity and transportation funding when it comes to Northampton County. And finally, you may have seen from press reports that we have been successful. Our medical vendor, Prime Care Medical, has been successful at obtaining vaccinations for our inmates and for any additional staff that wish to be vaccinated in Northampton County Prison. And any other county employees can also participate in that vaccination program should they choose to. This is huge news. To date, we have not lost a single inmate to COVID-19. To date, we have not lost a single CO to COVID-19. And it's about time we get these vaccinations because I don't want to lose any. And it's been a struggle over there, but they've done a tremendous job. And it will also allow us to once again open the work release facility, because if you're fully vaccinated, you can go to work. And this will, I know some judges have been gently inquiring of me when they run into me in the hall, when are you gonna do that? And the answer is always when it's maximally safe, and when they're fully vaccinated, they can go to work. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. McClure?
Thank you.
Old business. We have a public hearing on the ordinance entitled an ordinance of the County Council of Northampton County authorizing the purchase of a trail easement containing 0.428 acres, more or less, as determined by survey of real property by the County of Northampton in Plainfield Township, Pennsylvania, from Donna M. Garrity. Ms. Zirinsky and Mr. Giovanni introduced this ordinance at the April 15th, 2021 meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the public on this ordinance? Seeing none, hearing none. Is there any discussion regarding this from council members? Mr. Cusick?
I see Mr. Cope is here. I always like it if he could maybe, I know we've had a committee meeting, but if he could just explain to the public what this is and how important it is to our trail system. Appreciate a brief overview.
Good evening, everyone. As Mr. County Executive McClure stated about the $650,000 for the Two Rivers Trail, and this being the last section to get funded to make this big loop that would connect Jacobsburg really down to Easton. This easement that we're talking about right now is that last segment. We recently purchased the Norfolk Southern property, about 1.5 acres, that would make that full connection to the Plainfield Township Trail. And now this easement gets us down into the 33 right-of-way, which we already have started and completed really engineering design to get all the way up to Jacobsburg. So after, if this is approved, we can really move forward with the engineering to getting a safe crossing across Sullivan Trail that would connect to the Plainfield Township Trail. Design this to get up to Filetown Road that we just found out is now being funded, and we can start construction hopefully very shortly to get up to Jacobsburg State Park. So these things have been moving slowly, but we're really seeing the dominoes fall in place. So
I have a question.
So, just one quick follow-up. So if Mr. Barron were to take that bicycle off the back of his car, where could he start and where could he wind up when this is done?
well, we actually just had a good conversation, and he actually started here and headed up that way today, about 6 miles up into Palmer and then back down. Easton itself is working on a connection from the Carl Sterner Arts Trail to the existing Two Rivers section right in Palmer by the Crayola factory. But that trail system exists now. It comes down behind Crayola, goes into Hackett Park. So realistically, we can make that connection pretty soon, or sooner than later, especially with this easement that would help us.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, my question then was, when you gave your explanation, you were talking about both of the ordinances we're going to vote on because
Yes.
they're connected in that way. I just
Yes.
wanted to be clear.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Any further discussion? Questions?
I just want to make a comment that I'm really proud of this, the way it was negotiated with Donna Garrity. And I think that the idea that her horses are going to be able to connect now is just really amazing how this is going to help not only her, but the community and everybody involved. And so great work.
Thank you.
Mr. McGee?
Yeah, I'd like to, I was here at the committee meeting. I'd like to thank you and your staff for all the hard work putting this together. And also a comment out to the donor. Thank you.
Sure. Well, and thank you all for helping fund all this too, because we wouldn't be able to do that without it, so. Thanks.
Last call? Call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Heckman, Mr. Lott,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Ms. Vargo Hefner,
Yes.
Mr. Cusick,
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro. Ordinance is adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Number 2 is a public hearing on the ordinance entitled an ordinance of the County Council of Northampton County authorizing Northampton County to grant and convey the driveway easement containing an existing residential driveway 20 feet wide by 100 feet long as determined by survey across the land of Northampton County located in Plainfield Township, Pennsylvania, to Donna M. Garrity. Mr. Myers and Ms. Zirinsky introduced this ordinance at the April 15, 2021 meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Seeing and hearing none, are there any questions or comments from council? Yes,
I just think $1 for this driveway is a real bargain.
agreed.
So I'm going to vote yes on this one.
Okay.
Thanks.
And again, as we noted, these are tied together. Call for the vote, please.
Mr. Myers,
Absolutely.
Ms. Zirinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Heckman,
Yes.
Mr. Lott,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Ms. Vargo Hefner,
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro, Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted by vote, I'm sorry, Mr. Cusick.
I'm sorry, too. Yes.
Ordinance adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Is there any other old business to discuss? Seeing, hearing none. Under new business, we have the introduction of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending the 2021 Northampton County Budget, Department of Community and Economic Development, Administration, Fiscal Affairs, Balancing of the Budget, Information Services, Department of Administration, Act 12, 911 Interconnectivity, Emergency Management, Hazmat Act 165, Task Force Equipment, Department of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, Department of Human Services, Homeless Assistance, Children, Youth, and Families, Development Fund, Area Agency on Aging, Health Choices, Mental Health, Developmental Programs, Early Intervention, and Drug and Alcohol. I'd like to sponsor this ordinance. I'd like to ask for a second sponsor.
Second.
Indicate the public hearing will be held at the May 20th, hearing, debate, possible vote will be held at May 2021 meeting. Is there any other new business to discuss this evening? Are there any council committee reports? Mr. Heckman.
Previous to this meeting, we had a Human Services Committee report. Excuse me, we had a discussion on Graysdale. And we also discussed Haven House, was working out of Graysdale. And we got a report from the Director of Human Services. It was very formative. I'm not going to, since we had the committee, I'm not going to get into like nitty gritty, but all the reports were very informative. I think they were very helpful. And if you need any more information, the minutes will be available and you can review them. But it was a good discussion. I think everybody had a pretty good discussion about what's going on. And that's that.
Thank you. Mr. Lott?
Yes, we had an Economic Development Committee meeting today prior to this meeting. At 3:30, we discussed the LERTA proposed for Easton. I believe it was 12 or 13 properties down there. We had a presentation given by Mayor Pantos at that meeting, explaining the different properties that they're looking to put on a LERTA zone. I believe that resolution will be brought to this body on our next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council committee reports or announcements? Mr.
There
Myers?
will be a capital meeting on the 20th?
There will be?
There will be. Am I correct, Linda?
Okay. Yes, Mr. Cusick?
Just a point of clarification on the LERTA, is that an ordinance or a resolution? Okay,
I apologize, Ordinance.
I'm sorry, okay, thank you.
Any council liaison reports? Mr. Giovanni?
IT governance met on Tuesday, May 4th. And the biggest thing is to report the Clarity solution. They have got the hardware. The IT people are putting it all together with the help of Polycom. And we are going to test it live at our next IT governance meeting. The other important thing is they did get their blacklisted software for the passwords, and they will be migrating that to see whose passwords are weak. Other than that was all me.
Uh-oh, might get a call.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports?
I attended the Farmland Preservation meeting on Tuesday, and we are now up to 17,651.11 acres and 221 preserved farms. It was a pretty easy meeting. We're just going over the list for this year, but the Farmland Preservation was very interested in the solar presentation that we gave at the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee, and we discussed the possibility of a model solar ordinance, and they were excited about that, working to create some sort of continuity and a template for municipalities to follow with the coming of community solar and just for solar in general, mainly because a lot of municipalities don't have the familiarity with it or what it entails, and so a template many of the members of the preservation thought would be useful, and also to make sure that we protect the farmland and the farmers so that they don't potentially become part of that predatory solar development that could potentially happen with the emergence of community solar. And I'm not quite sure if we talked about that enough at the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee, but it is something that we discussed at Farmland, so thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Lott?
Yes, excuse me. I attended the Prison Board Advisory on April 27th. The board deals with grievances, unresolved grievances. We have been continuing looking over the grievances and dealing with those. But the thing that the board does a lot of is these tours of different cell blocks. They talk to the inmates and get input back, and then we meet back after the tours and discuss any issues that were brought to our attention with the warden and the staff. That has not been done for the last, since COVID. The jail's basically been on lockdown. As of the last couple months, they've been easing it up a little bit in small groups as our numbers stay good. So that being said, it's not a heck of a lot that's been going on because we just don't get to talk to the inmates like the board normally does. The board did talk a lot about vaccinating our inmates so we can get our volunteers back and start actually doing some rehab and get, so we really need to get our residents of our jail down there, to take the vaccine, the ones that are willing to do it. As of that meeting, we did not have an answer. I was very happy to hear the county exec's report that not only does Prime Care now have vaccines for inmates that want it, but we are also now have set up you can get vaccines for the COs right down there at the jail or any employee. So that was something that was the major concern at our last board meeting, and that was on April 27th, and I believe all that is being addressed right now. So I appreciate that. That ends my report.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. I attended the meeting on April 23rd. They approved some projects. Of course, they would just make recommendations for the projects. They did find one to be inconsistent with the commission's regional plan. It was the 53 acres on the Martin Towers, which I know has been in the newspaper. I don't know where that's going with the city, but just reporting it on the planning commission, that's what I observed on the board. Also, I know the director of the Planning Commission, Becky Bradley, is looking to come into council. I know Mr. Kuzic had talked about the information she mailed to everybody's personal home, I believe. I think she's going to bring some of that up. I know they're trying, as the board is trying to come up with ways to reduce the warehouse proliferation. I know the county has also done a great job to try to come up with ideas and things. So that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Just a quick question for Mr. Lott. On the Prison Advisory Board, first of all, I'm glad to hear that vaccinations are available. I have been vaccinated. I would encourage everyone to go out and get it. The future of the West Easton facility, work release. I know that no decision has been made, but has it been discussed at all at the Prison Advisory Board?
Yes, it has been brought up often, but, until we get a little better grip on it, they're not looking to bring people back into work release. So that's something that's asked every meeting, but it's one of those you don't get an answer for. Now I'm on the mic again. One thing that, we did double the amount of tablets in our facility from 200 to 400. It's only fair. These people were not sentenced to solitary confinement. They do not get visitors. So the county, we doubled our tablets. Well, that creates problems because tablets are something, there's responsibilities and there's rules with those tablets. And Bill brought up something about the news, and we were on the news twice today. We diligently watch those tablets because they can be misused. And there was 2 stories where that was caught because of our diligence on keeping an eye on those tablets. So to our public safety administrator and to the whole staff down at the prison, You know, we want to give our inmates, our residents, you know, everything they need to communicate with their lawyers and their families. But at the same token, we got to really watch that these aren't being abused or quite frankly, being used for illegal things. And so I commend the staff for picking up on these two issues. So I just thought it was important to say that. Thank you.
Mr. Meyer?
Just a follow-up from your meeting earlier. If I'm not mistaken, I thought the exec told us that we're going to open up the facility when everybody gets their shots. That point of order came with his meeting earlier. Am I correct with that?
So we have the population there is about half of what we can support in the main jail. So we can run work release for fully vaccinated people out of the main prison now without opening the West Easton facility.
Any other liaison reports? Council clerk report? Council solicitor report? Motion to adjourn, please.
Motion, second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.